Hello, it's Andrew. Welcome to Atomo, Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. And the European Congress creatures are at it, trying to get us into trouble. I think Germany just wants to, it's kind of like this. If you really want to do this, Germany, then at Canada here we have something called medical assisted in dying. It might be a cleaner and more environmentally conscious way to go, but we'll hear what you have to say.
And therefore, I've said already in the last days, yes, we have to do more to defend Ukraine. Yes, we have to do more also on tanks. But the most important and the crucial part is that we do it together and that we do not do the blame game in Europe because we are fighting a war against Russia and not against each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister.
That was the German foreign minister talking at the EU Parliament. Just looks like a kid. I'm wondering how much she understands about the history, about what's going on right now. There's no formal declaration of war, no state speeches, no votes that I have read about. So you see this video pop up basically saying, hey, Europe is at war with Russia. Is that what I'm understanding here? And this is where these I don't understand. Maybe it's just the kind of the lack of critical reasoning that the Greens who've infiltrated the German parliament come with. Because really we have to think about this. Yeah, you're sending a few tanks over. Okay. We're just gonna give them. We're just gonna do a little bit. We're just gonna do a little bit. We're just gonna give them the tip, just the tip. Pooty poot. We're just gonna give you the tip. And this is again, there's a level of deception that the collective West is using, and um, it just boggles my mind. Has anybody ever tried to give peace a chance here? And it's almost like there's a kind of failed empire, failed state thing that's going on. And wait, do they expect to win this thing? Do you think Putin is bluffing? If you go in and you kick the Russians out of the Donbass, out of Luhansk areas, Zaporozhye and Kherson, and push them out, that they're just going to say, oh, okay, you got us. We'll leave. Russia stated that this is an existential crisis. Whether or not Russia is fighting with their full strength or not, we don't know. We don't know if we've seen the best of which Russia can do. Kind of highly doubt it. Because if you see the best at what they can do, it's going to mean a lot of Ukrainian lives will be ended, and of course, Russian lives as well. But that was never the intent of Russia in this battle, is to, because there's a consideration that the Ukrainians are the brothers and sisters of Russia. Now, Kiev, or in Rus Kiev, is the genesis of the Russian state. So, um, so there's a sense that, much like if I were to pull an arcane sci-fi reference to Babylon 5, it's when the Minbaris and humans were fighting, and the Minbaris realized that humans have Minbari souls. So why are we fighting? Um, so there's a lot of diplomatic ways that this could be ended, but it can't when there's kind of the Ukrainian government is basically a sock puppet of other interests, because the other thing that we can look at is just are we is there a move to kind of deplete the people power of Ukraine so it can be rebuilt in a great reset style into its new zone within the world? Feels like a tinfoil hat thing to say. Maybe the WEF has a hand in this and they want to use, because Ukraine has very fertile soil for growth. There's lots of natural resources, especially in the energy areas, and Putin just basically put a stomp to that plan. It's possible that Ukraine could supply all the energy needs to Europe. They can cut off all the Russian supply, and then when the time comes and they want to play the green game, then they could say, okay, we're going green. And then since they control the pipes of gas and other resources going into Europe, then they can convert to the green economy and thus usher in the Great Reset. But the conflict puts a whole wrench in all those plans. So the other thing that we have to consider is, again, with changes coming in the Ukrainian administration, my suspicion is there's house cleaning going on. Because if the collective West really wants to get serious about this, you can't have crooks and cronies nicking all the stuff that gets sent by the collective West. I don't condone sending material and money to the Ukraine. It's just the billions that are going there could. I was looking at, I think, the CERN project, the Large Hadron Collider. It's reading in a book, $4 billion. I'm just going off the top of my head. $4 billion to build that instrument. Of the multiple billions going to Ukraine and absolutely disappearing, we could put that money towards a Manhattan project for fusion. I talked about this in other videos. We can do a fusion power project, a Manhattan project for fusion power, and kind of, if we crack that nut, we basically eliminate all the need. We have green energy, because if you're using tritium, it has a half-life of about 12 years. So nothing like the hundreds of thousands of, uranium and the radioactive isotopes that fission produces. But again, back to Ukraine and that sock puppet of a regime, if they're suckholing away all of the resources that are sent over, again, don't condone that, then that means they're not very serious about operating a war in that area. And so if your enemy's supplies are operating and logistics lines are operating at higher effectiveness than yours, that's basically over half the battle won at that point. Now, if your enemy runs out of materials, you have to think of it, two pressure points coming together being your front lines and pushing. Force of the push are your logistics lines. If you can keep, fresh people, material, replacement parts, food, munition supplies all coming in, keeping that push happening, then you basically have that part of the war won. It's just a matter, you don't want your spear tips dulling, and it comes down to the types of weapon systems and how fast you can put them out there. So that's something that the Russians did remarkably well with Lend-Lease assisting them, or the Soviets back in World War II, is Stalin was able to move his factories eastward, just picked them up, moved them over, had the support of the Lend-Lease, and then just cranking out tanks upon tanks upon tanks upon tanks and other weapons. Not the highest level sophistication of weapons, but just enough of them to keep replacing the fallen equipment. And we're kind of looking at this sort of way of fighting over again until, if Russia's backed into a corner, then the big booms will start coming out. That is the big worry. So no rah, rah, rah for war. We have to give peace a chance, because the next levels of escalation start to get pretty hot, and our little doomsday clock that's sitting at 90 seconds down from 100 seconds goes down even more. So consider what's going on and do your part to stop it from getting worse.